Hello, everyone. Welcome to another community conversation with Hannah Joy TV. I'm your girl, Hannah Gebrselassie. Excited to be here with you all today for this special conversation where we are going to be featuring members of Ethiopian-Americans for Biden-Harris, which is a new group that has come together at this, very special time in history. And we're going to learn a lot more about what that group is all about, and as well as what an event is all about that's coming up in about 48 hours. So stay tuned for that. I want to just go ahead and briefly introduce our panelists here with us, who are here with us today. Val, you can just wave when I say your name. We have our brother Amaha Kassa here. We have our sister, Dr. Menna Demessie, and we have our other sister, Mimi Alemayehou. Thank you all for being here. Just to touch on their bios a little bit here, Mimi Alemayehou is a leader who was appointed by President Obama to serve as the Executive Vice President of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation from 2010 to 14. Previously, Alemayehou was appointed by President George W. Bush to serve as the United States Executive Director on the Board of Directors of the African Development Bank. That's just a touch on her amazing bio and experiences. Dr. Menna Demessie, a community leader, political scientist, and voting rights activist who served as the former chair of the Society of Ethiopians established in the Diaspora for 20 years. The group is focused on community service and academic excellence of Ethiopian youth. Again, just a touch on the amazing accomplishments that she's done. Yeah, we'll clap it up. And then, of course, our brother Amaha Kassa, who's a labor and community organizer, nonprofit director, and social entrepreneur, founder and executive director of African Communities Together. Prior to launching ACT, Amaha earned his law degree from the University of California, Berkeley, and a master's in public policy from Harvard's Kennedy School. Thank you all for being here with us today. So if you are tuning in with us, we would like to know what city you're in, what state you're in, so we can get a touch on everybody who's joining us today with our esteemed guests. And we'll go ahead and dive right in. Let's talk about this new group that's formed, Ethiopian-Americans for Biden-Harris, and what the significance is of this group coming together at a time like this.
I can kick things off quickly. So thank you, Hannah Joy, for having us and everyone tuning in. So the thing about us is that we have always been here standing for the principles of a progressive move forward for Ethiopian-Americans, Eritrean-Americans, Nigerian-Americans, African-Americans, the Black immigrant community. And we find our representation in a Biden-Harris administration. But in terms of how we've organized, it really was just that we've been here and we're stronger together. So let's do something about it, and let's make sure that our presence is also felt and known in terms of the influence and political power we have to the administration and the powers that be in office. So with people like Mimi Alemayehou, given her position in the Obama administration, with people like Amaha Kassa, a big-time civil rights advocate with African Communities Together, and then researchers and like myself and others. The goal is, we come together around voicing our vote and letting people know what we represent for and making sure our interests are addressed. So that's kind of the ultimate. We came together organically, but we've been doing this work in our own individual and community capacity. So why not do it together?
Yeah, and maybe I would just add, I have lived in the United States for over 30 years, and I started my career early on, actually, on Capitol Hill. And my first job was as a legislative assistant, actually, for a Republican member from Texas. And I've been voting since I first became a naturalized citizen. And I've never, ever felt that an election was more important than this one. There is just so much at stake. And, I don't even know where to begin when people ask me what is at stake, and I would say, I would really start with perhaps decency. I want a president that's sort of a decent human being, that I don't have to switch my TV off when my 9-year-old daughter Ida walks by. And I think for the first time, 4 years ago, there were a lot of people that didn't vote because they didn't like both candidates. And I have members in my family and friends that didn't vote because they were like, I don't like Hillary. I don't like Trump, so I'm not going to do that. And we are paying so dearly, and we can't afford to do that in this election. There is affordable healthcare is at stake, affordable colleges at stake, criminal justice reform is at stake. Possibly Supreme Court seat is at stake. Democracy as we know it possibly is at stake. We have 25 million Americans that are currently unemployed, and we've just, buried over 200,000 Americans because of COVID and how this president has handled this disaster. So I think, we're all kind of starved for leadership. And I think for the very first time, Menna said this, and the last time I've organized something like this was African-American immigrants. I think during, for John Kerry, actually, the campaign against Bush. And, but this time around, when Amrote Abdallah, who's like a force of nature, who's in our group and the organizer, called me from Kenya, by the way. She's based in Nairobi, but she's, Ethiopian-American, and was like, we can't sit down. We can't take it for granted. We all need a plan. We need to get our families, our communities, our brothers, our sisters. We can't take this for granted. I'm going to Pennsylvania next weekend to canvass and to vote. If you can volunteer, to our community members who are listening in today, do what you can. Don't think you can't do anything. It doesn't matter if you're 18. I have an 18-year-old son who's a freshman. And, I've told him to call his friends, all his 18-year-olds, to make sure they register and vote. Make sure your parents are registered. Make sure you call your aunt and uncle. Call them every day. Say, have you voted? Voting has started in most states. We don't have to wait till November 3rd. There's nothing patriotic about voting just on that day. You can start voting today. So it's incredibly important. And I don't want people to think that this election doesn't matter to them. And it's not just the presidential election. Amaha, I've heard some of your conversations, and you're an activist. It's important to vote for your school board, for the sheriff, for the local officials. They actually impact your day-to-day life. So please, if you're listening, get out and vote.
Wow, that message in and of itself, absolutely. So many gems dropped there. And Amaha, as was mentioned, you do advocate across the board. So what led you to really wanting to get involved with this group, Ethiopian-Americans for Biden-Harris? And if you could talk about the significance of voting, across the ballot, up and down.
Absolutely. My sisters and colleagues said it so well. I think I spend most of my time working on policy issues in a nonpartisan way, on issues that affect our community, whether that's registering 1,500 new voters in Northern Virginia, or fighting to protect the diversity visa, or fighting for equitable COVID relief. And actually, that's policy is my passion, not electoral politics. But electoral politics determines policy at the end of the day. The reason that we have to deal with some of these issues, like the mass deaths from COVID, and defending against the escalating enforcement of immigration and the denial of basic equality in our immigration system, is because of political leadership or lack of leadership, or sometimes misleadership at the very top. To just take one issue that affects our community, I think I came here in the 70s, like a lot of our community members, immediately after the revolution. And, I think there were a lot of us who came through things like asylum that have been undermined by this administration, and it's become impossible to get asylum, even for people who have a strong, well-documented reason for needing political asylum. Since that time, more of our community members have come through the diversity visa program, the DV program, sometimes called the Green Card Lottery. That program admits 55,000 legal residents to the country every year. And historically, Ethiopia has been the number 2 sending country after Egypt. It's Egypt number 1 and Ethiopia number 2. The Trump administration implemented a rule just over a year ago that made it harder to apply for the diversity visa program. Now you had to Even before you had you were selected, you had to produce a passport from your country of origin. And a lot of us know sometimes that can be difficult, time-consuming, expensive for our family, especially if we don't have an itinerary or we can't pay for these things to be expedited. One small rule barely made the headlines in this country. We filed a lawsuit over it, or we were my organization was part of filing a lawsuit over it. But it didn't really grab a lot of headlines like some of these other policies. What was the result of that? Applications for the diversity visa lottery from Ethiopia went from over 1 million, to less than 500,000 from one year to the next. And that's not accidental, right? That's a policy doing what it was intended to do. So if we want to change these struggles that our community is in, if we want to ensure that our voices are elevated with the next president and with the next Congress, there's nothing to it except to do what generations of immigrants and other communities have done before us, which is organize, act collectively, volunteer, raise money, make our voices heard, and then after the election, then we can be listened to. But it's what happens now that determines what happens then.
Wow, I'm just listening to you. It's energizing, I think, me and a lot of people who are tuning in right now, because we all know we have an obligation right now in this very moment to act and to continue stepping up. And one thing, I admire the three of you on so many levels. And in one area in particular is how you're able to really work with people from different backgrounds, work with people from different sides, and really cross the aisle to get things done. And I think that's something that we have to recognize in this day and age, that it's not going to take one group. It's going to take us being able to talk to different groups and talk to different people. And so very glad to have you three here with us to weigh in. So there is this event happening, this huge one-of-a-kind virtual event happening this weekend, never been done before. And this is an official event tied to the Biden-Harris campaign. Can you tell us about this virtual program, why people should be getting their tickets if they haven't already, and what your goals are with this? And we can go ahead and start with Dr. Menna.
Yes. So thanks for the question. So look, everybody, now's the time, as my brothers and sisters just said. First, go to Ethiopians4BidenHarris.com. We have a fundraising Go Get Out the Vote initiative happening at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can still sign up. You can donate. Again, we often talk about the Congress's budget reflects its values, and so we know the importance of not only showing up but showing out in terms of our ability to donate and support the policies that we believe in. So in terms of what we're trying to do, it's really to amplify our communities, let people know how they can get the vote out, right? There's still time, and let's be real. I mean, we have seen since one of our own, President Barack Obama, during his election and re-election, it didn't take long for a number of states to introduce voting restrictive legislation that passed to make it more difficult, right? We call it voter suppression for people to vote. That affects our communities too. And so we want to get out early. We want to get out together. We want to, in a global pandemic where it's not so easy to just get in a car and stand in the line for hours, you really need to plan and strategize and not make it, even though voting is an individual choice and act, it can be done collectively. And you should think about taking your auntie, your sister, your parents, your brothers with you. But the other part is to come on Friday, go to Ethiopians4BidenHarris.com, sign up. You'll hear from people like Mimi Alemayehou and Amaha Kassa. You'll also hear from some of our stalwart policy leaders like Congresswoman Karen Bass. Many of you know her for her leadership as chair of the Africa Subcommittee in the House, but also her leadership on the continent, and specifically in Ethiopia, where the CC recently sent a supportive letter in support of Ethiopia's credibility to build the dam and provide hydropower for millions of Ethiopians across the country. And so Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee from Houston, a large Ethiopian constituency there, and she has done her due diligence to lift up concerns to our community as well. You'll hear from the highest elected Ethiopian Ethiopian-American official in the United States. That is Assemblyman Alexander Asefa from Nevada, doing great work, and he'll talk about the efforts he's made at the state and local level. You will also hear from Menna Demessie, a big time campaign organizer. He was responsible for helping Senator Booker go from mayor to senator, and now he is playing his role in the Biden administration as a senior advisor. Of course, you know, the other part to say here is this is about, it's a for us, by us effort to get the vote out, but to also recognize our own power. This is the generation of folks who are not only running for office, we're winning offices, right? And so we want to lift up people like Johannes Abraham, who has done amazing work, you know, under the Obama administration and currently with the Biden administration, to make sure that our voices are heard. So come find out what matters to you, participate. You'll be able to ask questions, and we'll have a conversation about why it's important for us to get out the vote. And this is not just about November 3rd, right? This is about our livelihood beyond November 3rd. And what we can do is start to mobilize together. So we have a voter rights toolkit. And the last thing I'll say is, let's, you know, this is my sort of trademark thing. A lot of us go out there trying to make change by reinventing the wheel. Let's not reinvent the wheel, right? Let's just put some nice gold rims on the wheel, right? Find out the organization of people who are doing great work and join the team and help them do a better job of what they're doing. So when you have groups like Abisha Votes and Abisha Networks already out there doing this work, right? They have a phone banking event tomorrow. You know, join them, be part of the change you want to see, because it's easier to do it together. So we'll see you, Ethiopians, for BidenHarris.com. Join us on Friday.
I think Menna's really covered the whole thing, but just maybe to add, you know, the members of Congress that are coming are, you know, both Sheila Jackson-Lee and Congresswoman Karen Bass are members that are very engaged with our community and know our community very well. And Ambassador Thomas Greenfield was the former Assistant Secretary of State for Africa. Of course, she's very familiar with our community as well. I think the program is excellent, but really the goal is, I mean, we're 2 weeks away from November 3rd. So one is just to get the vote out and also raise funds. So if you can make any amount of contributions on the site, we're still taking contributions, that would be great. And, you know, one thing I would say, maybe just in addition, is while this is, you know, sort of trying to get Ethiopian Americans to come out and vote, I always say that we are part of the broader sort of African American community and the struggle for equity. So I think we're, you know, I'm able to vote. We're all able to vote because of those who have come before us, who have, you know, struggled before us and given us this opportunity. So we must never forget about that as well.
You're absolutely right. We absolutely can't forget about those sacrifices of those who came before us. So it's really important that we get out there and vote. And if you're watching this right now, share this conversation with your following, with your audience. That way you can reach more people. And if this mission aligns with your values, make sure you contribute to this. Make sure you show up to this event. You know, showing up is half the battle, right? So really encourage you all. Again, we're going to put that link right here in the comment section. All you have to do is click on that. It will make a big difference. And again, this, even if you already voted, you can still show up and still support and still come together as a community, because as they've been telling you, this goes beyond November 3rd. This is about also leveraging the power of the community and the collective. So make sure you're staying engaged with this. Again, if this aligns with your values and your mission. So I know we have, you know, about 10 minutes, maybe less than that. So we do have a couple questions that came in. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them off in the comment section, and we'll make sure to pull them up. But this is for you all. You've sort of hit on it. We've heard you all talk about immigration. You know, we've heard you all talk about the challenges that have come up over the past 4 years with welcoming some of our brothers and sisters from around the world. We've heard you all, you know, talk about healthcare and how, you know, that's been hard. We've heard you all talk about different things happening. And we're seeing what's happening right now in the continent of Africa, whether it's our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, and of course the going against SARS and ending SARS, or whether it's our brothers and sisters in Ethiopia. Of course, we've seen division and different tension, and we're also seeing you know, locusts coming in and destroying so many farms and so many things. And so this is about a relationship. This is about seeing how this next decision is going to impact those here in the US and those across in Ethiopia as well. So what do you say to that? What's at stake? What's on the line when you guys have brought up some of the issues, but if you could each just maybe sum up, a few things that people should be concerned about when making this vote.
Well, I think I spoke to the immigration issues, and I think that they've, for at least in part, gotten a lot of media attention. So I think people understand how sharp the differences are between the two candidates for president when it comes to issues of immigration policy. I'll put it this way: under the Obama administration, we might have had we did have differences around issues of immigration policy. And I had the opportunity as an advocate to sometimes raise that with members of the administration. But I was doing that from within a convening for Ethiopians or African immigrants within the White House. Right? We had a voice. We could engage in dialogue. We could struggle over the issues. It wasn't a sense that the political leadership was incredibly hostile to us, not just as political opponents, but really in our very humanity. So I think that's one of the differences. But then I know a lot of our community members, we have people who are second generation and were born here or who've gotten their citizenship and said, and immigration issues may not be top of mind, even if they brought their families over already. They're not concerned about family reunification. But domestic policy issues at stake here are way bigger than just immigration. We have mourned over 200,000 of our fellow Americans who are who've died, and in many cases unnecessarily due to COVID-19. And there's no end in sight. We need political leadership. We need political leadership that follows the science, that listens to doctors and is truthful with people about how to best protect themselves. And we have not had that over the past year that this pandemic has been raging. We also need political leadership that is going to create an inclusive and comprehensive relief and recovery. We have distributed, my organization in my day job, we've distributed hundreds of thousands of dollars in emergency relief to community members who've lost work and are threatened with eviction or loss of housing due to the pandemic. It's a drop in the bucket. We need federal leadership in order to dig us out of this massive economic hole that I think many in our communities are staring at face to face. And we're not going to get that with the Trump administration. We know what we're going to get with the Trump administration, and we need something much, much better. And I have confidence not just in Biden and Harris, but in the teams that they've built in the campaign, in the transition, in the administration that they're going to build, that it will be a lot better, and that's urgently needed for all our communities.
If I can just hop in there too, and I appreciate what Amaha is saying, because the other part is, it is important as Ethiopian Americans to recognize our power, not only abroad, but right here in the United States. What we're facing is unlike anything we've seen in quite a long time. Number one, we're about to have an election without the full protections of the Voting Rights Act. We have Ethiopian Americans and other of our people all over the country. Some of you are lucky, you're in great areas, it'll be a smooth process. In other places, we have some real issues. There are states that don't have as many early voting days as we would like. There are folks that are asking for multiple forms of ID that we're not prepared for. We have a president who who not only cut the deadline advocated for the cutting of the deadline to collect the census count in a global pandemic where over 200,000 folks have died, but does not want to count in the data that undocumented immigrants, for instance, have filled out the census. That's unconstitutional. I mean, what we're facing is leadership that has the ability to really leave us in a worse off than we were before, right? And so when you think about the census, for instance, we're in decennial census where our communities have been systematically undercounted, and now they have the backing of the president to undercount them more. So what does that mean? That means that for the next 10 years, the redistribution of millions of billions actually, federal dollars for things like federal directed student loans, your school breakfast program, right? Your healthcare benefits. These things are going to go to the communities that have a good, accurate count of their populations. And so as Black immigrant communities, as racial minority communities in America, we have struggled disproportionately in terms of making sure we get the deserved benefits that our tax dollars go into. And so that's a problem. So we really need to understand we are fighting economic relief for the many businesses that we have across the country that still haven't received the benefits of the Paycheck Protection Program. You know, there were 4 iterations of the economic stimulus bill. We got to close the information gap, and we have to leverage our resources so that the businesses in our communities, the Abisha markets where you go to get your spices, where you go to buy injera, that these owners that are supported and are able to benefit from taxpayer dollars. So there's some serious issues on the forefront here that will have detrimental effects for our ability to keep our homes, to make sure, those of you who have kids and families trying to figure out school, right? And what that looks like in a new normal where your kids are going to school by themselves on the screen and not able to really engage in the same way with the people around them. I mean, we've got to really show up in all these spaces and understand that our livelihood is impacted on several socioeconomic indicators right here in the United States, right? Not just abroad, but right here at home.
I think I just, sort of want to add that I don't think there has been a time where it's so visibly like, you can see the difference between 2 candidates in an election. It's very clear what they stand for. One stands for science, one doesn't. One wants to lock up children, one doesn't. One wants to build a wall, one doesn't. One has given racism a platform at the White House. And, I hope by now people have made up their mind and they know what the Biden-Harris team stands for. Biden has picked an African-American as his VP candidate. That's clear. So I hope that motivates people. I hope you register. I hope you register your family members. I hope you have a plan, and I hope you vote.
We all hope you all vote. We all hope you make a plan, and we hope you make a plan that will really help the future generations that are coming up. I know we're going to try and wrap up here in a few minutes, and we did have a question that I would love to ask you all from Brother Worku Abe here, who said, why some people think if they vote or not, there is not a difference. So, to the point of some people thinking their vote doesn't matter, maybe if one of you all want to touch on that, and then we'll get your final words as we wrap up today.
Well, here's the thing, right? Voting is, what does it mean? It's an individual act that has the ability to change your life for a very long time. And no one is saying that there aren't a lot of issues that are still on the table. The goal is that you're doing what you can in your individual and collective community capacity to make a change. So, at the end of the day, if you have a problem with the way you're living in your community, if you don't feel represented, by the elected officials at your local, state, or federal level, then the only thing you can do, there's many things you can do, right? But you've got to show up and vote to make the change you want to see. It's hard at this stage of the game, as Mimi just really displayed. We're dealing with 2 diametrically opposed candidates, right? And so I'm not even quite clear on who is exactly, a swing voter at this point. There are some stark differences here. But that being said, you have to vote if you care about making change in your community, because you're seeing what has happened in a post-George Floyd era. Look at the city of Minneapolis, where a lot of our people were on the ground there locally. And they didn't just say, well, that's police brutality for you, there's nothing we can do about it. They not only protested, they protested with action, they mobilized, and were able to make a difference in the community of policing there, right? So that budget appropriations would go more towards investing in neighborhood policing. So you can make a change. You don't have to wait forever. And the other part is, don't get overly, right? We support Biden-Harris. Your president matters, but so too does your governor, who's pretty much like equivalent of the president of your state, right? So when you think about all these other issues, you need to know who your mayor is. You need to know who your city council, your state reps are. So it doesn't, and you need to show up, right? Go testify at a public hearing if you're upset about the fact that no one's cleaned up in your neighborhood, and you're paying tax dollars for that. Like, show up, right? So vote your choice, vote your. That's how you make a change. And organize. I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's very important that we understand this is not a one-time process. This doesn't just, November 3rd is not going to solve everything. That's one step of the entire process. These 3 individuals work year-round, around the clock, to create change, to support our communities. And so remember, November 3rd is not the end-all be-all. It's just another step that we have to get through in order to see change. So at this point, we'd love to hear some final words from you all. Again, everyone tuning in, there is an event happening this Friday. And if this mission aligns with your values, we encourage you to check it out, to attend, and also make a contribution. That information will be in the caption. So final words from you 3 as we part ways today.
I would just say, look, voting has started already. Do not wait for November 3rd. That's when it ends. So please just go out and vote. Over.
And I would add, if there's one thing that's true in our community, it's that we love politics, right? We love to talk politics. We love to watch the news and discuss politics. But sometimes we don't do it at the right time and in the right way. This event that's going to be happening on Friday, we're going to have members of Congress, senior leadership in the Biden-Harris campaign, and leaders in our own community. This is the time and place when our voices, our presence, our contributions can make a difference, not just now, but for years to come. And so let's channel that energy that we have, that political energy that we have, in the way where it can make a real difference.
And I would just add, right, if you care about democracy, and if you care about preserving our democracy, if you care about diversity, equity, inclusion, if you care about a more progressive approach to the continent, improvement upon domestic and international relations abroad, saving our reputation in the world, bringing people together, if you care to end racism, if you care to protect immigrants and families, then you need to be there on Friday at ethiopiansforbidenharris.com. You need to understand and learn what a Biden-Harris administration would do for promoting and representing the concerns you believe in. And you need to go vote, just like we're saying. Go vote, show up, meet us on Friday, ask questions, and be part of the change that you want to see.
Absolutely. You have to be part of that change. And just to show you a few of the comments here, Samuel Gebru, of course, said, woo, Mimi, Menna, and Amaha. Thank you, brother, for tuning in. And we have people from Atlanta, from Dallas, from New York, from California tuning in today. So we thank y'all for being with us. And this comment right here, there's one from brother Alex Belletti who said, I'm proud of you guys. We're so proud of you 3. And we thank you for your leadership and your continued efforts. And then this comment right here, I think, is really special to end on. My wife voted for the first time in Hobart, Indiana, from Mahmoud Kaflet.
Lovely.
Love to hear. Yes, we'll clap it up.
That's what we want to hear.
Yes, keep voting early. Again, like was echoed today, do not wait until November 3rd. Most states are offering early voting. Check out your election center. Go to vote.org for more information. If we could give you all a round of applause today, thank you so much. Please, everyone, visit the link in the caption to learn more about Ethiopian-Americans for Biden-Harris, and make sure to attend the event. Make a contribution, again, if this aligns with your values. We thank y'all for being here with us. We thank you 3, and much love.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Hannah Joy, for all you do too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks for your voice for the community.
Amen.